This R53 Mini has a lot of issues that we need to fix. Seized, corroded, split, rough. It needs a bit of love and a multitude of parts fitting, but today we're going to make a start. Look at this, brand new alternator, and it spins nicely. Now the one that's on the car doesn't move at all, it's seized solid, so much so that the owner of the car has been told by a couple of people that the engine has actually seized. Now we know that's not the case because we got it started in the last video, but today we need to get this fitted, but also we need to do some recommissioning on other parts. And as we're in that type of area, we're going to look at doing the supercharger service, probably going to drop the subframe off because some of the suspension parts do need updating as well. And we're going to try and get this back into a good running order so that it can go through an MOT, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, Steve can drive it home. Let me tell you quickly about this car. It's a rare MINI Cooper S factory John Cooper Works. How rare, you ask? Well, according to howmanyleft.co.uk, there are just 386 remaining on the road that were built between 05 and 06. The car arrived locked up, flat battery and key not working in the door lock, and we managed to do some electrical magic and gain entry, diagnose the seized alternator, and a month later with a mountain of new parts from Steve, the owner of the car, and today we're starting the rebuild of a car that will undoubtedly be a future classic. Here's a close-up on the alternator that was stopping the engine from running, so you can definitely see it's seen better days. And if we move up to the water pump, you can see that's definitely seen better days. You can see on there that build up of all the old coolant. This is extremely crusty, so I'm hoping that it's got a little bit of oil in each end of it, because what we don't want is for the water pump end to have run dry. But yeah, it just shows you a little bit more up close as to how it's looking. So let's get some more of this off. The crank position sensor I have removed down here. You can see the seal on this has definitely seen better days. This is a very, very common oil leak on these cars. So if you're ever in this area doing any work, alternator, supercharger service, anything like that, make sure you pick up this seal as well and change it at the same time. So that's the old one there, this is the new one. So we can pop that on. That'll be our first thing that we sort out. There we go. Nice new ones in place. So all we need to do now is pop that back in, like so. And then we pop the 10mm back in. So let me quickly do that. This little pipe on the back of the supercharger is a bit crusty. Now, if I work around it like so, it should mean when we get the bolts out for the supercharger that it will come off easier, in theory. So let's see if the theory is right. Right. Don't do what I did here and use a normal ring spanner. Get yourself a ratchet spanner, save yourself a lot of time. so we can leave that bolt in. The tension is now undone. So, all being well, it should just be a case of getting these bolts out for the supercharger. And I've got one more down here. There we go. Right, now we just need to wiggle this off, which is easier said than done. I don't think it is that pipe that's holding it on. Because that is loose. There we go. As you can see, there is another, it actually is blue, it was difficult to see before, but there is another seal on here that we need to change, so let's do that while we remember. So it just sits in there like that, just like for like replacement. And we can leave that on there for now. Put some of this stuff away. And what we can do is put these back in here. Because in that way, when we clean the front of the engine, we're not going to spray loads of water into these holes. And also, it shows where everything needs to line back up to. There we go. There we go. Right. These two go on the supercharger. That one goes down here. And now we haven't got any bolt holes exposed, so we can basically jet wash the front of this off, clean up all this rubbish, give the driveway a quick going over, get rid of all this coolant, because it is the wrong colour coolant, and when we come back to it, we'll have a nice clean engine bay to be working with. So let me show you some of this stuff that we have taken off of the car since we've been stripping it down. Now, first of all, this is a really common issue. This top hose here, you can see it's starting to rub through there. So much so that I can actually see the inner sort of braiding that they use, because there's like a rope that goes through the middle of here. You can see on there that that is on its way out now. There's also a little chunk taken out of there as well, look. Now with this particular hose, what I end up doing is using an automatic one, because this gap here is a bit smaller, so therefore it sits a bit further up and it moves this away. But another way of doing this is to use some compensating plates on the chassis, and it pulls the whole front clip forward slightly. So that's the first thing. This is on order, this hose itself. I'll leave the part number in the description down below, but you can actually pick this up for less than £10 at the moment. The average cost is about £20. There are some that come with like a coating that goes around here, like almost like a fabric that you can slide up, and it covers this section. So I guess it is a known issue. So that's the first thing that we found that we need to obviously replace. Secondly, of course, is the alternator. Now, I showed you the one earlier in the video where it was spinning freely. This one is not turning at all. Not sure what's gone on with it, but it is seized solid. It is not having any type of movement whatsoever. So again, we have got a replacement for that. You can see there is a big crack in here, which is fairly common on this particular alternator, especially the OEM ones. So that probably explains what is going on with it at the moment. And finally, we have our water pump. Now, I'll probably move you around here a little bit to show you this. This is not down to any sort of wrong coolants being used or anything like that, although it should be G48, not this pink coolant here. But you can see the amount of crud and crust that's built up on there, look. So we're going to swap that for a new one. He has bought a new water pump, which we will put on the car. Obviously we're going to do the supercharger service, check the oil in both ends of it, which I'll show you a little bit later on. But I just thought I'd show you some of the stuff that we found. We'll have a quick look on the car as well, because there are a couple of bits on there that I want to quickly show you, which are fairly common on R53s. So the other thing as well, which is quite common on these, this bracket here, I've not tried to remove yet, but these little 8mm are prone to snapping off inside the inlet manifold. So I've got to be a little bit careful with them. Same for these ones here as well. There's a couple of 8mm there, look, which again, prone to snapping. And the other thing, which was sort of immediately noticeable, was this idle pulley down here. You can see it's a little bit corroded where it's been sitting, but it's actually quite rough when you spin it. So we'll swap that over as well. It's got a new one to put on, an inner one, which is good. So I'm going to put that on. And yeah, we've jet washed off the front of the engine yesterday just to clear it up a little bit, because there was quite a lot of oil and crud built up around there. And we do have a new rocker cover gasket and spark plug tube O-rings to go on, so we'll get onto that as well. But yeah, we've got a good point at the moment. We've got all this front end stripped down. We need to try and get as much of this pink coolant out of the block as we can. So we're going to try and flush through some of that, maybe get a pipe in there and try and suck some of that out of there. But for the most part, it's now looking pretty clean. Let me just see if I can take that off and just show you the front of it. So you can see jet washing all of that oil and crud off down here, because there's a lot of build up around there. It's made the world of difference. So yes, and obviously we've changed this very, very common oil leak point. So I think we will crack on a little bit, try and get some of these off, and I'll cut back in a little bit later on if there's anything else to show you. But yes, for the most part, we're making good progress. So you join me on day 2 as we're doing the supercharger service. I'm just trying to get the water pump off of the end of the supercharger, and it's on there quite tight due to all that furriness that's built up on there. Use a small club hammer just to tap it off, and at this point on the water pump, it's worth, if you've not done this before, just popping a little mark on the pipe, which I'm showing you here, in line with that outlet pipe, and that will tell you which direction that pipe needs to go back on. If you get that wrong, it just means a lot of messing around later. The blades on the supercharger are actually pretty good. There's relatively low scoring on there. There's a couple of tiny marks, but that's pretty common in line with its age. It's a Teflon supercharger. So yes, overall, pretty happy with that. It's a 4th generation one, which you can see down the bottom there. But it all spins nicely. There's no uneven wear. There's no big chunks of the Teflon coating missing. So yeah, it's not bad condition for its age. When we do the supercharger oil, I always start with the water pump end, which is the most common one for running dry. So you can see I'm just trying to pour the existing oil out into a small container. And the good news is that it's actually got some oil in there. If this is completely run dry, then it's worth taking that PTO end off and just checking the cogs inside there. I'll pop on screen a photo of one that I'd done not too long back, where basically it had lost the oil out of the water pump end, and it was basically just eating itself. So yeah, pretty bad. The oil itself is in not too bad a colour, considering normally it comes out sort of pretty black. This is a relatively golden brown colour. The pulley end of the supercharger very rarely runs dry. Most superchargers that I've serviced, there's plenty of oil in this end of it, and you can see I'm just cracking off the plug for that end at the moment. Now, the John Cooper Works supercharger has a slightly smaller pulley on it than the stock R53, and it's indicated by this little mark that I'm pointing to here. So if you're unsure if your supercharger's been changed, or someone says that it's been replaced with a John Cooper Works item, that's how you can tell. Now I'm pouring the oil out at the power takeoff end, and you can see it's a lot blacker in the pulley end than it is in the water pump end. But the main thing is that it's got oil in there, and you can see there's a lot more of it. There's about 140 to 145 millilitres of oil in the pulley end, and there should be 40 to 45 in the water pump end, and for comparison this is what the new oil looks like. So we're going to fill it back up with some clean oil, get the seals on, and then get it back on the car. Supercharger's all built back up with the water pump and the seals on. That radiator hose is back in line with that little white mark that I showed you earlier. And one little quick tip for doing this as well is on the water pump O-ring on the back, I put a little bit of red rubber grease on there, because when it slides into the flange on the block, it will make it a lot easier sliding back into place, and hopefully it will prevent you from nipping it. If you nip that O-ring, you will end up with a water leak when you put it all back together. Just quickly, before we put the supercharger back on, what I've done is this little pipe down here, I've sprayed a little bit of lubricant into, because we need to slot our water pump outlet pipe into here, and I want it to go smoothly. We've changed the flange that goes into the block just down here, put a new O-ring in the back of it. That's why that looks pretty shiny. Taking the bolts out for supercharger, and then we're just going to try and wiggle that back into position now. So let's see what we can do. We've got our red rubber grease onto our flange connector as well. So all being well, this should just slide in quite nicely, but these can be a real pain in the bum. So there are a couple of dowels on the left hand side. Right, that pipe's gone nice. That is roughly in the right place. Those dowels are in. So let's just get one in here. And what you tend to find is, let me just quickly get one in to show you, because it might make it a bit easier for you in the future, is if you can see just there, so you can see this is the outlet here from the block, this is the flange. You can see the O-ring is sitting with the red rubber grease, but it's not all the way in yet. So as soon as you start to tighten up the big bolt in the middle of the supercharger, that will pull that in tighter. So at the moment it's roughly in the right place, and that's where it needs to be. But this bolt that goes in here, the big long one, as soon as that starts to tighten up, that will pull that in and give you that connection that you need. So again, with these, make sure that it is roughly started. I'll speed this up a little bit, but I'm just putting the supercharger bolts back into place. I've gone round off camera, torqued them back into position, and you can see I pop a dipstick tube back in as well. Now obviously you've got the 4 13mm bolts to hold the supercharger into place, and you've also got that 16mm top bolt on the tensioner, which has also been done up here. And you can see I'm just marking up the idle pulley because that's also been torqued up. And now this is where things start to go slightly downhill. So let me show you. Let's get this into position. That not be looking good. What is this off of? Because this is not an R53. That is the wrong way round. Let me go and grab my other one. Okay, so this is the alternator that Steve has provided. And this is the alternator that came off the car. Now, if you look, this top bolt here, which is the same as this top bolt here, but look on the top, you can see this plug and this 10mm connection are in the wrong place. So this alternator will not fit onto this car, because when I put it on, this plug is facing against the block and you can't actually slide that plug onto it. So yeah, a little bit of a problem. I'm going to drop him a message, see what he says. I've got a few second-hand alternators that I can get on for now, but obviously he's bought this one and it's the wrong one. So yeah, I'll drop him a message, see what he says, and then go from there. So I've dropped him a message regarding the alternator, and I think he's got another one that he's going to bring down, so we can try that one. In the meantime, I fitted this second-hand one that I've got available just to stop any water from sitting there, and if we do need to start the engine, we've got an alternator we can use temporarily. In the meantime, I'm going to crack on, change this rocker cover gasket because we've got a small oil leak down the back, and the spark plug tube seals while we're in there. So I thought, okay, and I've got one more left. Most of them actually come out not too bad, but there's one that's like really badly rusted in there. So unfortunately, it's this one here, look. So what I've been using to get them out with, if you ever get stuck, is these bolt extractors here. This is quite small, so I'll leave a link to the kit in the Amazon storefront down below. But basically, I put it onto there, and then I use a hammer to get it over the top. He says. Although this one feels like it might need the next size up. It's probably not as badly corroded as we thought, but that's better. And then once it's in place, when you go to undo it, it actually tightens up around it. So for a lot of these, you only need to use a 3/8, a 1/4 inch ratchet, but for this particular kit, it is a 3/8. So but basically, you can see inside there that it tightens up around it, and that's sort of the condition that one was in. The one on the front here was even worse. This one. So if you look at the condition of that, that's had it as well. So they're all out, but obviously we are going to need to source 2 or 3 of these, and these aren't cheap from BMW. So you see if we've got some spares, but if we haven't, then yeah, I think they're like £6 or £7 each, which is mental. But let's get the cover off, and that can be our next issue in a minute. So right, so this FAI rocker cover gasket and spark plug tube O-rings, what a pain in the arse to fit. Honestly, I've spent about 20 minutes trying to get this in. It's so solid, there's not much flexibility in it. It's in fact it isn't even in there, look, see? You see what I mean? It keeps popping back out again. So I've got to get that back in again. Spark plug tube seals, great, they just push in, which is unusual because normally you've got to hit them in as well. But this thing here, oh my god, what a pain. So let me sort that out again. Right, just to show you, it's in there now and on that side, but it's just incredibly tough. It's almost like you're sort of pushing it to one side and then rocking it, and you having to do that to get it to go in. So yeah, not pleasant, but it is in. So let me go and set you up by the car and we'll get this back on. Slotted the rocker cover back into place with the new gasket and the spark plug tube seals on. I'm just quickly going around putting all of the bolts in by hand and then tightening them up with the ratchet. Not tight, just nipped up, and then we're going to go around with a torque wrench in a minute, set to 12 Newton meters, and make sure that everything is done to manufacturer's specification. I start from the inside and work my way out to make sure that the pressure across the actual gasket is spread evenly, and this should make sure that it has a nice seal moving forwards. So that brings a wrap to today's video, and first of all, big thank you for watching and bearing with me. I appreciate it's been a month since the last video came out on this channel. We've been waiting for parts for this thing to turn up, and I'm not responsible so much for getting these parts. It relies on the owner picking them up and then getting them over to me. So that's not on him. It's just one of those things where parts do take time to get delivered, especially if you order them online. We have found a few other little issues that we need to sort out, which we're going to do as we go along. So the aircon condensers being one of them, the little bit on the exhaust manifold that I need to have a look at next time round. And we need to drop off the front subframe, do the suspension components, because they're very tired. There's a lot of movement in those front wheels, which I've covered off on a second channel video for the suspension bushes. So we're going to do those, probably do some lower ball joints, drop links, track rod ends, all that sort of thing. Give it a bit of a refresh before it needs an MOT, and obviously we need to clean up these headlights as well. The other thing that we do need to do, which I haven't started doing yet, is the airbag wiring was cut out of this car for the front seat connectors. Now we need to reinstate that, and then we need to test it. So if that's the sort of thing that you do want to see, then let me know and I'll try and cover off a little bit more detail around that. And we've also got to do the heated seat wiring, like from the switch back into the loom that goes into the car. So again, if you're interested in how we repair that, let me know. I'll try and film as much of that process as I can for you. If you need any tools that you've seen in the video, they'll be all in the Amazon storefront down below. Any parts that we've fitted that aren't in the Amazon storefront, I'll leave a link to in the description. So again, big thank you for watching. Thank you for bearing with me, and hopefully you've all enjoyed today's update. And if so, again, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the second channel, and I will catch you all again in 2 weeks' time, because yes, there will be another video in 2 weeks. It won't be a month. Keep your notification bell on, and then when the video goes live, you'll be the first to see it. Catch you all on the next video. Thanks for watching.